What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the PlayStation 5. Yes, you heard me right. The PS5 is actually on its way. The reason we know this is some very good sources have come forward with information that is incredibly accurate. Now what's cool about this is the fact that the people who are reporting on this specifically have been right about the PlayStation Pro, they've been correct about the original PlayStation specs, they've been able to predict each and every console before it came out. So if they say the PlayStation 5 is on the horizon, well, it's time to take them serious. So here's the main stuff that's really been revealed, and some of it's really cool, and some of it actually kind of worries me. First and foremost, it's going to be way more powerful. That's not a big shock. That's kind of what PlayStation does. Each console is just stronger with basically the same controller. I think that's part of the reason they've had such a diehard fan base is because it's so easy to understand the system. If you've picked up any PlayStation controller in the last 20 years, you know its look, its feel, you know where every button is. It's really straightforward. But there's something else that's interesting about this, which is that this extra power is definitely made to entice developers to come over. But on top of that, they've actually stated, specifically in these leaks, that a major focus is going to be on VR games. And this is personally a big worry of mine. I do not care about virtual reality. I'm just not a VR fan. While the PSVR is actually really good, it's still just not a fun experience to me overall. I like stuff where I have my controller in my hand and I'm just going through the world on my screen and I can pause it and walk away whenever I need. Virtual reality, it feels a lot more serious. You have to invest time, effort, and a lot of money to make it good. So the fact that Sony is trying to pivot in that direction so hard, it makes me nervous. But something else here that's really kind of cool is they're saying that the development kit for PlayStation 5 games is already out in the wild. Now, the reason this is so intriguing is because you have to keep in mind, it takes usually 2 or 3 years to make the average game and about a year to port something. So if they already are handing out people kits to create PlayStation 5 games, it's pretty clear that within the next 2 years, they want it on store shelves. You gotta give out those kits now in order to make it where there's gonna be several big launch games and not just shovelware crap. But something that's weird about this is I've reached out to the people I know, asking around behind closed doors at the games industry to see if anybody has actually seen this PlayStation 5 kit or heard anybody using it, and nobody has. But these reports claim that it is completed. Now, the reason that sort of intrigues me is because what that could mean is that they've finished the hardware specifications for what the PlayStation 5 will be, but nobody has begun games on it yet. Which is good and bad. It means that the system is definitely coming down the pipe, we should all be prepared to save up money for it, but at the same time, it means that they don't quite have it steady enough to throw out a kit for it. Who knows what the internal architecture is yet. Still, I think that this is a good thing, but it could have a bit of a drawback. Now, my biggest fear with all this news is the fact that, honestly, I love my Nintendo Switch. It is a phenomenal system that just manages to be cool, quirky, and really unique. But right now, it is getting a lot of ports, even from other systems, and we're celebrating that. Seeing LA Noire and all sorts of big-budget open-world titles getting converted to it is impressive. But I have a little bit of this scared attitude to that. My fear is that if the architecture in the PlayStation 5 is dramatically different from the PlayStation 4, this may make it where developers have to choose a team. Either make something for just the Switch, or make something for just the PlayStation 5. That sort of happened with the Wii U. That's why this comes to mind, is originally, at the start of the Wii U, the internal programming was very similar to the Xbox 360, which at the time was the most powerful game, that was the most popular game console on the planet. Which means, if you spent years of developing something that was gorgeous and giant on the Wii U, it would also work on the Xbox 360. If we lose that close parity between the PlayStation 5, or in this case the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, I'm afraid the Nintendo Switch is going to suffer from it. However, it's not all bad. This is still really interesting because, well, I was actually slightly scared of some of the early details we heard about a year ago, saying that Sony really wanted the PlayStation 5, or PS5, whatever it's called, to not have physical disc trays, for it to be an all-digital console. And I feel like if that were the case, they would have said it by now. I've seen some leaks that talk about all-digital consoles, and usually they're very upfront with programmers because that's just a different way to make games. Something else about this that's just kind of boiling in the back of my brain is just how quick this is. It has not been very long since the PlayStation 5 Pro came out, and I've already heard rumors that Xbox really wants to get the Xbox One X, the Xbox 2 out as quick as possible, and the Xbox One X just came out. I'm afraid that they're going to be starting to ostracize their audience. Remember at PlayStation Experience this year, they were really hyping up the fact that the PlayStation community is bigger and better than it's ever been. The people who are buying PlayStation games are buying them by the millions, and because of it, freaking Sony is doubling down to make even more giant games like God of War, Spider-Man, everything wants to be on the PS4. What happens if they start to try and turn all of that audience, the 100 million people roughly that have the PlayStation 4, into PlayStation 5 buyers, and it doesn't work? Now, what I mean by that is the fact that if you're coming out with several series of consoles in a row, back to back to back, you're going to get console fatigue. This has happened in the past. The Sega had this as a real bad problem because they came out with the Sega Genesis, the Sega CD, the Sega 32X, all in quick succession. But on top of that, there were even multiple versions of the Sega Genesis itself, which meant that if you were somebody who was trying to be the most loyal Sega fan and even wear Sonic t-shirts to school and stuff, well then that meant that you'd be dishing out thousands of dollars to keep up. If this console manages to come out and be under $500 and be dramatically more powerful, that's a good thing. But the key issue here is to make sure it has backwards compatibility. That is 1,000,000% the biggest battle you need to win. This console generation has gotten people really doubling down on the importance of physical media. Buying discs, putting them in your console, and then buying DLC and stuff like that digitally. Having a little bit of both aspects of gaming, but still having your physical disc. Now, I just kind of think about the fact that if this does happen, and we do see this so close, people are going to get a little bit put off by it. Now, when I talked about the Xbox 2 long ago, one of the things that a lot of people said is, this is a bad move because it's shooting the already tiny Xbox fan base. The community that surrounds Microsoft and their games is really dedicated, but let's face it, they're on an iceberg that's kind of shrinking a little bit, and things are running down a tiny bit. There's just not many exclusives for it. So some of those people are a little bit upset when they hear about a possible new console because it feels like, once again, Microsoft is shifting focus away from good games and turning it into good hardware. The Xbox One X is obviously the strongest thing on store shelves and puts out graphical capabilities that no other console can do, but it still doesn't have that many great exclusives, especially not stuff like Sea of Thieves. If the PlayStation 5 starts trying to do that, if it just tries to go out there and exist on store shelves and be strong, but does not yet have all the third-party support lined up and ready to go, I'm just fearful that we'll have a dry launch and it could hurt the system and hurt the PlayStation fan base. Systems right now are increasing in sales speed. It's crazy to think about, but people are actually buying games faster than they ever have, playing them more than they ever have, getting online content to a multiple higher scale than has ever been seen before, and encouraging their friends to get on the bandwagon. Gaming is, for the first time, truly a social hobby. It is something that you enjoy more with others around. But if all your friends just got an original PlayStation 4, you're playing on a PS4 Slim, and your older dad has a PlayStation 4 Pro, there is a slim chance that all of you are going to get PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5. Really what it just comes down to is, I want this new console to come out relatively soon because, let's face it, the writing's on the wall. So many of these leaks are already talking about late 2018 or early 2019. So my hope is, at E3, they kind of show off some crazy stuff. Show us some big, grand spectacles and teach us why this is a good investment. Don't rush this system just because you're trying to double down and get people to buy another system, because trust me, that is only going to blow up in your face. Give us a huge library of games and encourage people to put stuff on your console right away so that it gets filled out in a hurry. Look at year one of the Nintendo Switch. That needs to be your example. Indie games, indie games, indie games, big titles, RPGs, and online madness is what you need, and you need it fast. If the PlayStation 5 is real, I'm going to be happy to play it, but I want to make sure that you are ready for us to jump on board. Well guys, this has just been a random rant about the PlayStation 5 and the impacts it may have on the Xbox One X and the Nintendo Switch. Hey, Microsoft, give us more games. Hey, Nintendo Switch, keep being awesome. And hey, PlayStation 5, maybe hold off a tiny bit. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. And tell me, right now, down in the comments section, if somebody tried to sell you a PlayStation 5 right now for $400, are you on board? Or is that just too much? I guess we're all about to find out. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.